One vehicle came by, stopped for a few seconds, then left. There was nothing suspicious really about the car coming through, but it rose to a level where the trooper decided to go down and check that mailbox where he stopped in front of and found this note in the mailbox.
Wolf in sheep's clothing, hiding in plain sight.
We have new details on the suspect accused of abducting 9-year-old Charlotte Sena after this park ride with her friends in upstate New York.
This is Reporter Room with Jessica Della Davies.
Hello, Reporter Room investigators. This is one of the most important videos that I have made. We are discussing the Charlotte Sena case and law enforcement. Today, we're going to be talking about digging into what some of the stranger abductions, how likely was it that Charlotte was abducted by a stranger? Or did she know him? We have new information on this case. Did Craig Ross's mother know that her son was holding little Charlotte on her property? Remember, Charlotte was found in a camper on Craig's mom's property. Was Charlotte forced to write her own ransom note? And was Craig stalking Charlotte, or was this a crime of opportunity? We have a lot of stuff to get into, a lot of new information. Let's get started. Charlotte is a 9-year-old little fourth grader. She just turned 9 last month, and she was recently elected to the student council. New York State Police Lieutenant Colonel Richard Allen is speaking out and says law enforcement has interviewed Craig Ross's mom. Now, Craig was arrested on Monday evening in a camper located on his mom's property. He said, quote, "The mother was in the house, which is directly in front of the camper, which is in her backyard. We are working with her and interviewing her, and as far as charges on her, it's too early to say what may or may not have happened there. We are trying to determine what she did know and didn't know at that time." So Craig Ross also was recently investigated on allegations that he was inappropriate with a 12-year-old family friend. He denied it, and these charges were simply dropped. Should law enforcement have investigated this claim more thoroughly? Now, let's go back to 4:20 a.m. After Charlotte was abducted, we know the family's home was being surveilled by the New York State Police. A vehicle pulled up and left something in Charlotte's parents' mailbox. Now, her parents were not at home. They had chosen to stay behind at the campground, probably wanted to continue looking for Charlotte. So the police retrieved an item from the mailbox, and it was a ransom note. Now, the suspect in the alleged abduction of Charlotte Sena may have forced this little 9-year-old fourth grader to write her own $50,000 ransom note. This is according to various media outlets. Now, Craig Ross was charged with first-degree kidnapping after Charlotte was found allegedly hidden inside this camper on the property of his mother. Just 48 hours after Charlotte had been abducted while riding her bike at the Moreau Lake State Park in Saratoga County. Now, the suspect's arrest came after he drove to the home of Charlotte's parents and left a ransom note in their mailbox on Monday morning. He, quote, literally drove up to the family's mailbox, assumed they were not home. So, did law enforcement tail the car back to the house to try to ascertain where this person who was leaving this ransom note was staying? My understanding was that they did not, and I'm not sure why they didn't, but they did retrieve the note, and so they ran the fingerprints right away. A match was not found initially. At 2:30 p.m., law enforcement got a hit on the fingerprints from a DWI all the way back in 1999. So, Ross was arrested in April of 2017 also. So this guy has a record following a DV incident. Now, in the 2017 case, they didn't prosecute it. They didn't follow through with it. So this guy left his fingerprint on the ransom note. This is a great reminder to all of us that most criminals are not mastermind geniuses as depicted in the movies like Silence of the Lambs. So did this guy forget he had fingerprints in the system, or did he not realize that he had left a fingerprint on the ransom note? So law enforcement identified the location. It was a house that was his mother's house, and they found this camper parked behind his mother's house. They made a tactical entry, and after taking Ross into custody, they located Charlotte inside a cabinet. Now, my understanding is that there was at least one helicopter along with multiple law enforcement vehicles doing a SWAT-like exercise to retrieve Charlotte. So what did Charlotte feel like when she realized she had been rescued? Was she relieved? Was she hopeful? Was she still afraid? We know she was taken to the hospital and is reportedly in good health. And I'm going to tell you more about that in just a second. But we have a lot of questions too. How was the bike found? Was the kickstand in place? We're going to go through all of that together. Please stay with me until the end of the video. So was this guy lying in wait for Charlotte, or was this an opportunistic crime? In my opinion, this was planned. He was at the campground looking for an opportunity to abduct Charlotte. We know he placed a tarp on the window of his camper prior to this happening and probably had fixated on Charlotte leading up to her kidnapping. So Ross was arraigned on first-degree kidnapping in Milton Town Court early on Tuesday morning. This is according to a memorandum. So according to this memorandum, Ross is accused of kidnapping Charlotte and the ransom letter with an, quote, intent to compel the payment of monies as ransom for her. He's scheduled to appear in a preliminary hearing this Friday at 9 a.m., and he has a court appearance on October 17th at 10:30 a.m. And I will be following this case. If you haven't subscribed, please do, and hit the notification bell so you don't miss new information. So we still are not completely clear on how he focused in on Charlotte. Was he lying in wait for her? Was he camping at the lake? Did he know Charlotte's family? Was he following social media posts? And I'm going to go through the stats on stranger abduction in just a moment, so please stay with me. We have so many questions we still need answers to, so I will be continuing to cover this case. Now, the Union Times reported that the suspect was 51 years old, and there is a 51-year-old in the system with a similar name, but we don't know if these two men are related or if the name is just the same. But this guy is 46 years old. So out of respect for Charlotte and her family, no further details were given about how Charlotte is doing. We do know she's going to be sitting down with an expert that deals with kids for an interview on behalf of law enforcement to try to gather more information. I will continue to cover this case. We have so many questions that still are not answered. Thank goodness Charlotte is alive. So I am an investigative journalist. I have been verified on Twitter as a journalist. This was prior to them selling their blue check marks. And so I am going to work hard to bring you the latest and most credible information. If this is something that's important to you, please consider subscribing. Thank you so much for watching, and I look forward to seeing you next time. Bye.